What if I told you that thousands of completely normal, non-trust fund, non-lottery winning, non-crypto bro people are walking away from their 9-to-5s in their 40s and 50s, some even in their 30s. And no, they're not living in a van down the river eating canned beans for every meal. Well, okay, some of them are living in vans, but those vans are really nice now. Have you seen those Sprinter van builds? Those things cost more than my first apartment. Here's the thing. Early retirement used to be this mythical concept reserved for CEOs, hedge fund managers, and that one uncle who got in early on Apple. But something has shifted. Regular people, teachers, nurses, engineers, even baristas, are figuring out how to pull the ripcord on their careers way ahead of schedule. And the strategies they're using aren't complicated. They're not day trading penny stocks at 3 in the morning or launching some sketchy drop-shipping empire. They're doing boring stuff. Really, really boring stuff. And it's working. So today, we're going to break down exactly how regular Americans are retiring earlier than their parents ever dreamed possible, the specific strategies that are making it happen, and the one mental shift that changes everything. Let's get into it. All right, so before we go any further, we need to talk about the single most important number in all of personal finance. It's not your salary or your net worth. It's not even your credit score, although please, for the love of everything, stop ignoring that. It's your savings rate. That's it. Your savings rate is the percentage of your take-home pay that you actually keep instead of lighting on fire at Target every weekend. And yes, I'm calling you out. You went in for toothpaste and came out with a decorative throw pillow and a $40 cutting board shaped like Texas. We've all been there. Here's why savings rate matters so much. If you save 10% of your income, which is what most financial advice tells you to do, you're looking at roughly 40 years of working before you can retire. 40 years. That's basically your entire adult life. You start at 22, you retire at 62, and somewhere in the middle you develop a mysterious knee problem that nobody can explain. But if you bump that savings rate up to 25%, now you're looking at around 32 years. 30%, about 28 years. 50%, you're down to roughly 17 years. See where this is going? The math doesn't care about your salary. Someone making $60,000 a year who saves 50% will retire faster than someone making $200,000 who saves 10%, every single time. And that right there is the first secret that regular people are figuring out. It's not about earning more. It's about keeping more. The gap between what you make and what you spend is the most powerful wealth-building tool that exists. More powerful than any stock pick, any side hustle, any real estate deal. The gap is everything. Number 1, the anti-lifestyle creep movement. Now, here's where most people mess this up. They get a raise, and within approximately 45 seconds, their expenses rise to match it. This is called lifestyle creep, and it is the silent killer of early retirement dreams. It's like financial carbon monoxide. You don't even notice it's happening until you're making 120 grand a year and somehow still living paycheck to paycheck, wondering where all the money went. I'll tell you where it went. It went to the upgraded apartment because you deserved it. It went to the nicer car because the old one was embarrassing. It went to the subscription boxes, the meal kits, the premium streaming bundles, the gym membership you use twice in January, and the $8 cold brew you buy every morning because making coffee at home is apparently too much to ask for. People who retire early do the opposite. They get a raise and they pretend it never happened. They automate the increase straight into investments before their brain even gets a chance to think about what that money could buy. It's like intercepting a pass before the receiver even knows the ball's been thrown. The money never hits the checking account. It goes straight to a brokerage account, and their day-to-day life stays exactly the same. This doesn't mean they live like monks. That's a huge misconception about the early retirement crowd. They're not sitting in empty apartments eating rice and beans by candlelight. Most of them spend intentionally. They'll splurge on travel because travel matters to them. They'll spend on good food because they enjoy cooking. But they'll drive a 10-year-old second-hand without blinking because a car is just a tool that gets you from point A to point B. And the only person who cares about what you drive is you. All right, so you're saving a big chunk of your income. Great. Now what? You invest it. And this is the part where people love to overcomplicate things. They want to pick individual stocks. They want to time the market. They want to find the next Amazon at $3 a share. And I get it. That sounds way more exciting than what I'm about to tell you. The vast majority of people who retire early invest in broad market index funds. That's it. Total stock market index funds, S&P 500 index funds, maybe some international index funds sprinkled in. Low cost, broadly diversified, set it and forget it investing. It's about as thrilling as watching paint dry. But you know what is thrilling? Telling your boss you're done at 45, while he's still got 20 years left. That's thrilling. Here's why index funds work so well. The S&P 500 has historically returned about 10% annually before inflation, roughly 7% after inflation. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to read earnings reports. You don't need to watch financial news channels where people in suits yell at each other about interest rates. You just need to consistently put money in and leave it alone. The leaving it alone part is crucial. People love to tinker. They love to sell when things get scary and buy when things are hot. That's literally the opposite of what you should do, and yet millions of people do it every single year because our brains are wired to be terrible at this. The people retiring early treat investing like a boring utility. It's like paying the electric bill. You don't get emotional about your electric bill. You don't panic and cancel your electricity every time the rate goes up. You just pay it. That's how they treat their investments. Money goes in on the 1st and 15th of every month, regardless of what the market's doing, regardless of the headlines, regardless of whatever doom and gloom prediction some guy on the internet is shouting about this week. Let's talk about housing, because this is probably the single biggest lever regular people can pull. Housing is most Americans' largest expense. It typically eats up 30 to 40% of take-home pay, and for a lot of people, it's even more than that, especially in major cities, where a studio apartment costs more per month than a mortgage on a 4-bedroom house in the Midwest. People who retire early tend to do one of a few things with housing. Some of them house hack. That means they buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, live in one unit, and rent out the others. The rental income covers the mortgage, and now their housing cost is zero or close to it. Do you understand how powerful that is? Imagine your biggest monthly expense just evaporating. That alone can double your savings rate overnight. Others choose to live in lower cost of living areas. They leave the expensive coastal cities and move somewhere that their dollar stretches further. Remote work has supercharged this trend. You can earn a San Francisco salary while living in Boise, Knoxville, or Raleigh, and the difference in cost of living is staggering. We're talking about going from a $3,000 a month apartment to a $1,500 mortgage on a house with an actual yard. A yard with grass and everything. And then there's the crowd that just buys a modest house and pays it off as aggressively as possible. They throw every extra dollar at the mortgage, own their home outright in 10 or 15 years, and suddenly their monthly expenses drop to property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. When your housing cost is basically zero, the amount of money you need to retire drops dramatically. Okay, so how do these people actually know when they have enough? This is where the 4% rule comes in, and it's elegantly simple. Figure out how much you spend per year. Let's say it's $40,000. Multiply that by 25. That gives you $1 million. That's your number. Once your investment portfolio hits $1 million, you can withdraw $40,000 a year adjusted for inflation, and statistically, your money should last at least 30 decades. Now, most early retirees build in extra cushion because they're not retiring at 65. They need their money to last potentially 50 or 60 years. So many of them aim for a 3 or 3.5% withdrawal rate instead, which means they need a bit more saved up. But the principle is the same. Your annual spending multiplied by 25 to 33 gives you your target number. And here's the part that blows people's minds. That number is based on spending, not income. If you can keep your annual spending at $40,000, you need $1 million. But if your spending is $80,000, you need $2 million. This is why the spending side of the equation is so critical. Every dollar you cut from your annual spending reduces your retirement target by $25 to $33. Cut a $100 a month subscription, you just shaved $30,000 to $40,000 off the amount you need to retire. That's insane. Now look, I've been hammering the spending side pretty hard, and I don't want to give you the impression that income doesn't matter. It absolutely does. The fastest path to early retirement is the combination of high income and low spending. If you can figure out how to increase your income while holding your spending steady, you've basically strapped a rocket to your financial plan. Regular people are doing this in a few ways. Side hustles are the obvious one. Freelancing, consulting, tutoring, selling stuff online. There are more ways to earn extra money now than at any point in human history. Even an extra $500 a month invested consistently grows into something significant over a decade or two. But the bigger play for most people is investing in their career, negotiating raises, switching jobs every 2 to 3 years to capture those salary bumps that loyalty to one employer never gives you, learning high-value skills, getting certifications, the boring stuff nobody wants to talk about because it's not as simple as start a drop shipping business and make 10 grand a month working from the beach. That's not real. But negotiating a 15% raise at your next job change, that's very real. And most people leave it on the table because asking for more money makes them uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. That 15-minute negotiation conversation could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over your career. You know what else is uncomfortable? Working until you're 67. Pick your discomfort. We've talked about savings rates, index funds, housing strategies, the 4% rule, and income growth. All of that is mechanics, and it's important, but none of it works without the mindset shift. And this is the thing that separates people who talk about early retirement from people who actually do it. The shift is this. You have to stop tying your identity to consumption. Our entire culture is built around the idea that you are what you buy. You are your car. You are your clothes. You are your neighborhood. You are your vacations. And every advertisement you've ever seen since you were old enough to watch television has reinforced this message. Buy this and you'll be happy. Upgrade that and people will respect you. Spend more and you'll finally feel like you've made it. People who retire early reject this entire framework. They define wealth not by what they own, but by what they don't need. They measure success not by their salary, but by their freedom. And freedom to them means having enough invested that they never have to trade their time for money ever again. That doesn't mean they stop working. A lot of early retirees keep working. They just work on things they actually care about. They volunteer. They start passion projects. They consult part-time on their own terms. They write. They teach. They build. The difference is that they're doing it because they want to, not because they have to. And that distinction, that shift from obligation to choice, is worth more than any sports car, designer bag, or waterfront condo could ever provide. Early retirement is math, not magic. It's not reserved for tech millionaires or trust fund kids. It's available to anyone who's willing to save aggressively, invest consistently, keep their spending in check, and play the long game. That's it. No secret formula, no hidden tricks, just discipline applied over time. The tools are all right there. Index funds are accessible to anyone with a brokerage account. House hacking doesn't require a real estate empire. Side hustles don't require a genius-level IQ. The 4% rule doesn't require a PhD in economics. Everything you need is freely available, and the only thing standing between most people and early retirement is the willingness to actually do it. So, if you've been watching this thinking, yeah, but that's not for someone like me, I want you to reconsider, because the people doing this right now, they thought the same thing. They're not special, they're just consistent. And consistency, it turns out, is the most underrated superpower in all of personal finance. Drop a comment and tell me, what's your biggest obstacle to retiring early? Is it income, spending habits, or just not knowing where to start? If this challenged you, don't forget to give it a like, and I'll see you in the next one.